Here we are at our halfway point in our month of tea brewing, and let's recap a minute to say there is no right or wrong way to brew tea. There's no required equipment. The requirements are, I think, a clean vessel that's free of any oils or any other aromas, a tea that is to your liking, and a real sense of adventure into how can you take this tea, brew it a slightly different way, rewrite the recipe, and make it something that really works for you. Some of the things that are going to be important in your appreciation, some more than others for you personally, are going to be the leaf itself, the aroma, the color, and of course the flavor. When we're brewing tea, we take some different things into consideration, like what tea are we brewing, who are we serving it to, and just what equipment do we have at hand. If we're brewing for somebody else, what do we feel comfortable and happy to serve and happy to demonstrate? Now, if you talk to my students in my classes, they'll probably laugh and say she brews everything in glass. I don't brew everything in glass, though I like glass because I tend to like the whole leaves. I like watching the show of the leaves becoming rehydrated and full again. Not just the blossoming performance leaves like we saw, but the performance that's part of every leaf as it gradually comes back to life. That's something I don't like to miss if it's not in glass or in I'm leaving out plastic with intention. I don't brew much in plastic. I have one exception that I'll demonstrate, and well, we'll go there later. But today I have glass. So we look at these two, and the first thing is a simple thing. If we're looking at brewing a tea with a ratio of the amount of tea to the amount of water, these aren't the same size. This one actually holds twice as much. It holds 2 cups of water, 16 ounces, right up to this little notch. This one, 1 cup. So we're using twice as much water. In theory, we would use twice as much tea. So here's the thing about that ratio. This is maybe a little esoteric in a sense, but let's keep it just a really practical fact. Putting in double the amount of tea to that cup, that amount of water, doesn't ruin the tea. It doesn't ruin it. It just reframes the conversation between the tea leaf and the water, because you might use cooler water, like we did with cold brewing even, or you might brew it for less time. What I have here though is exactly half the water, half the tea as in this one as in this one. Now, the tea that I'm using is one that I use in classes. Now, when I teach classes, I order large bags. This is a moonshine. It's a tea from the Glenburn Estate. They named it moonshine, but on here you can also see that it's a first flush, and it is a Darjeeling. Darjeeling is a certain area in India. They grow certain strains of the Camellia sinensis plant. They manufacture it in a certain way, process it in a certain way, and first flush indicates that it was the very first new growth on the older bushes. It's the new growth in the very first part of spring. So these are likely to be just buds that were snapped off, or maybe bud and 1 leaf, maybe bud and 2 leaves. But they were very tender green leaves. And it's going to be really different than, say, the monsoon teas that are picked later in the fall after there's been a lot of rain. That's going to, even if it's the same tea bushes, it's going to change the taste of the tea. And these we tend to brew first flush with a cooler water, like a green tea. So I am going to fill this up for our experiment today. I'm going to fill it up to the brim. these two are ready now. I've given them just a little more than 2 minutes. I was planning 2 minutes, but as I'm watching the color and the restoration of the leaves, I left it a little bit longer. Isn't that fun? Isn't that lovely? And let's put some color in our serving. I have these two really bright red cups that were made by 4Life, but they have this nice white interior so that my guest, when I serve, can actually still see and appreciate the color of the tea. Perhaps even better with a white background than with a clear background. Because the clear, of course, you see light through it, but the color is maybe you experience a little distortion with the color because of the colors in the room. With a glass pitcher, I just use a strainer. Now, if you think about a kitchen strainer wire and a little wooden handle, that's really not what I use for tea. In fact, if I collect anything, it's these bamboo strainers. I have some other ones, but these are bamboo. And then these gourds. So they're stainless steel, there are porcelain, there are a lot of different options, but these are really fun. As a guest, you can enjoy the lovely cup of tea that with the white background, you really see the clarity of this infusion. You get to see the beautiful golden color. And then if you're my guest, I would tend to take some of the leaves out of the container, out of the pitcher, and display them for you. Let you touch them, let you pick up a leaf, and say, "Oh my goodness, here is this beautiful bud that was picked fresh on one spring morning. It still didn't open up even after our first infusion, and the one little tiny leaf connected to the bit of stem." That's what most of these pluckings are. Let's say, I don't have an exact number, but let's say between 7,000 and 10,000 plucks to make 1 pound. And of course this that I showed you before is just 1/4 of a pound. And then once again, I am saving these leaves. They can become another infusion, and keeping this tea, this brewed tea, my first infusion, from getting stronger. When we go on, there are going to be other teas and other tea experiences where the leaf isn't the main thing, where the fact that it is cut maybe to infuse more quickly, or to infuse the flavor differently, or to blend with other ingredients is much more significant than this leaf. And for that reason, we would choose a different kind of teaware. I would not put a chopped up leaf or even a tea bag into this little glass pot. That's a great reason why we have teaware to serve the different teas different ways. Once again, this is our tea brewed very simply with a glass container and a nice little strainer. We can strain it directly into the cup, or could actually strain from one pitcher into another pitcher and then serve. And it is the leaves that we're using today are Moonshine First Flush from Glenburn. I'll leave you the links, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.